A long time ago in Elvandar, there was a kingdom of elves, whose large castle rose in the center of a vast elven forest. The woods stretched wide and wild with trees tall as dreams. Their bark shimmered silver, and their leaves glowed green and gold, swaying softly in the breeze. Streams wove through the forest, clear and singing, their banks lined with star-shaped flowers that glowed faintly, lighting paths at dusk. Mist curled gently around vines that hummed a low, sweet tune, giving the forest a living, magical feel rooted deep in its earth. At its heart stood the castle, grand and sleek, with spiraling towers of white stone that gleamed in the sun. Arched windows caught the light, spilling rainbows over quiet courtyards. This was home to elves, graceful and wise, and ruled at Kingdom King Elthar, a tall and stern figure whose silver crown bore etched leaves, his voice deep and steady. His daughter, Princess Leora, moved with a brightness all her own, her golden hair flowing freely, her sharp eyes glinting with curiosity. She cared little for silk gowns or thrones, preferring the forest's hum and glow. Often she slipped out, barefoot over cool moss, her laughter ringing freely through the trees. One day she wandered past the brook and glades to a clearing where trees parted, revealing a net stretched taut and tangled with vines. Caught inside flapped a small blue bird, its feathers ruffled as it chirped sadly. Leora stepped closer, her fingers reaching to untangle the vines, when a shout broke the quiet. "Stop!" came a clear voice from the trees. She turned quickly as an elf leapt down, lean and plain in a patched brown tunic, his dark hair short and messy, his earnest eyes wide. "That's mine," he said firmly, pointing at the trembling net. "I set it for seeds." Leora looked surprised. "Seeds? That's a bird." He flushed red and admitted, "Yes, the wrong catch." She laughed brightly. "Wrong? It's trapped." He stepped nearer, hands raised. "I'm Rin. I mend nets and trade them, not for birds." Leora tilted her head with a sly smile. "Trade? To who?" Rin grinned shyly. "Bakers, weavers, anyone with bread." She replied, "No bread here. I'm Princess Leora, untangling this now." Rin's eyes widened. "Princess?" The bird chirped louder, and the net snapped suddenly, vines whipping free. Leora stumbled back into Rin, and they tumbled to the moss, laughing together. As they sat up, a vast shadow fell over the clearing with the rustle of wings. A dragon landed nearby, its black scales glinting, its red eyes fierce, its tail curling silently. Leora stood boldly. "That's," Rin paled, whispering, "Duskfong. He guards," a sweet voice called from the trees, and an elf maid with a red braid darted out, bow in hand. "Not guards, hunts," she said, running closer. "He's after me." This was Eren, and Leora faced her. "Why you?" Eren notched an arrow with shaky hands. "I took his gem by mistake." Rin blinked. "Gem?" Leora frowned. "Mistake." The dragon lunged with a low roar, claws swiping near, when a horn sounded sharply from the castle. Guards rushed in, tall elves with gleaming spears, led by Elthar, who barked Leora. "Back." She grinned slyly. "Too late, father." Duskfong hissed, wings spreading wide, then retreated into the mist, his red eyes fixed on Eren before vanishing. Leora turned to Rin and Eren. "Who's she?" Rin shrugged. Net trader me. Eren smiled faintly. Gem finder now. Elthar reached them, his hand firm. Enough home. Leora stepped forward freely. Not yet, something's off. The forest hummed softly, and the bird chirped high above, its call echoing strangely through the trees. Elthar's spear gleamed as he stood in the clearing, his silver crown catching the fading light of Elvandar's forest. The trees towered around them, their silver bark glowing faintly, leaves rustling with a gentle hum. Leora faced her father, her golden hair swaying, her stance firm despite his command. Rin brushed moss from his tunic, his dark eyes darting between the princess and the king, while Eren gripped her bow, her red braids swinging as she scanned the mist where Duskfang had vanished. The guards formed a quiet circle, their spears steady, but the air thrummed with something unspoken. Leora spoke first, her voice clear. We can't leave yet. Eren's in trouble. Elthar frowned, his deep gaze shifting to the elf maid. Trouble? Explain. Eren stepped forward, her hands steady now. I found a gem in the hollow last moon, green and shining. I thought it was lost, but it's his, Duskfang's. He's been hunting me since. Rin tilted his head, curious. A dragon's gem? Why keep it? Eren flushed slightly. It sings when I hold it. I couldn't let go. Elthar's frown deepened, and he turned to Leora. This is no game. Dragons don't forgive. She smiled faintly. Neither do I when friends need help. Rin blinked, surprised. Friends. Before she could answer, a rustle came from the trees, and a new figure emerged, a stout elf with a gray beard, carrying a sack bulging with scrolls. This was Tauren, the castle scribe, his eyes sharp behind thick lenses. Sire, he said urgently, the archives speak of that gem. It's no trinket. Elthar waved a hand. Speak then. Tauren unrolled a scroll, his voice quick. Long ago, Duskfang guarded a trove beneath the forest, gems tied to elven oaths. One vanished, and he swore vengeance on whoever took it. Eren paled. I didn't know. Leora stepped closer, peering at the scroll. Oaths? Whose? Tauren adjusted his lenses. The old queen's, your grandmother's. She bound it to peace, but it was lost. Rin scratched his head. So it's royal? Elthar's eyes narrowed. If it's hers, it's ours to claim. Leora shook her head. Not if it's Eren's now. A shout interrupted, a young elf guard, his spear trembling, pointing upward. Look. High above, Duskfang circled, his black wings cutting the sky, a low growl rumbling down. The forest hushed, the humming vines falling silent. Tauren clutched his scrolls. He's watching. Rin grinned unexpectedly. Good. Let's wave. Leora laughed, but Elthar snapped, enough foolishness. To the castle. Eren hesitated, her bow lowering. He'll follow me there. Before Elthar could reply, a twig snapped nearby, and a small figure darted out, a child elf no older than 7, her black hair in twin braids. I saw him, she cried, tugging Leora's hand. He's got friends. Leora knelt, smiling. Friends? Who are you? The girl beamed. Mira, from the weavers. Dragons, 2 more, red and gold, hiding in the mist. Rin's grin faded. 2 more. Torin paled, dropping a scroll. The trove's guardians. They're waking. Elthar gripped his spear. Then we move now. Leora stood firm. Not without a plan. Erin's not bait. Duskfang dove suddenly, his claws grazing the treetops, sending leaves swirling. The guards raised spears, but he pulled back, his red eyes glinting at Erin, then Mira. The child giggled, unafraid. He's fast. Rin picked up Torin's scroll, squinting. Wait, it says song breaks the bond. What song? Erin's hand went to her pocket, pulling the green gem, shimmering, singing faintly. This one. Elthar stared. You've had it all along? She nodded, sheepish. Hid it when he came. Leora grinned. Sing then. Erin hesitated, then hummed, soft, clear, the gem's tune rising, weaving with the forest's hum. Duskfang froze midair, his growl softening, but a new roar echoed sharp gold from the mist. Mira clapped. The others. Torin whispered, they're linked. The castle horn blew again, urgent, as Elthar shouted, inside all of you. Leora grabbed Rin's arm. Not yet. This just started. The forest trembled, the gem glowed brighter, and the elven kingdom braced for what came next. The forest pulsed with tension as Duskfang hovered above Elvandar's clearing, his black wings casting shadows over the silver trees. Leaves shimmered faintly, their golden edges trembling under the dragon's gaze. Leora stood firm, her golden hair catching the breeze, her grip tight on Rin's arm. Rin squinted upward, his patched tunic swaying as he held Torin's scroll. Erin clutched the green gem, its faint song weaving through the air, her red braid swaying with each breath. Mira bounced beside her, black braid swinging, her small hands clapping at the dragon's every move. Elthar faced them all, his silver crown steady, his spear raised as the guards tightened their circle. Torin adjusted his lenses, scrolls tucked under his arm, his gray beard quivering with every rustle from the mist. Elthar's voice cut through. Enough stalling. That gem's royal. We take it back now. Leora shook her head. It's Erin's until we know why it sings. Erin nodded, lifting the gem higher. It calms him. Listen. She hummed again, soft and clear, the tune rising sweetly. Duskfang's growl faded, his red eyes blinking, but a sharper roar answered, gold and fierce from the mist. A second dragon emerged, scales glinting like sunlight, its wings smaller but swift. Mira pointed eagerly. That's the gold one. Rin grinned, nudging Leora. 3 dragons now? Torin paled, clutching his scrolls. The trove's waking. Red's next. Elthar turned sharply. Red. Before Torin could answer, the ground shook, and a third dragon burst through the trees, red scales blazing, eyes narrow, smoke curling from its jaws. The guards shouted, spears tilting, but Leora stepped forward. Wait. They're not attacking. The red dragon snorted, glaring at Erin, then settled, its tail curling calmly. Mira giggled. They like her song. Erin faltered, her hum breaking. I don't understand. Thorin unrolled a scroll, scanning quickly. The old queen's vow bound 3 gems, green, gold, red, to 3 dragons. They guard the trove together. Leora frowned. Then why's Duskfong mad? Rin tapped the gem. Maybe he wants it back. Elthar lowered his spear slightly. Or he wants them all. A rustle broke the thought. A new elf slipped from the trees, tall and wiry, his cloak grey, a flute in hand. Not quite, he said, his voice smooth. Leora blinked. Who are you? He bowed lightly. Vryn, the flute carver. I heard the song. That gem's mine. Erin spun, gem tight. Yours. Vryn smiled faintly. I carved it for Tild, your grandmother, years ago. She gave it to me, then took it back. Elthar's eyes narrowed. Tild's dead. Explain. Vryn raised his flute, playing a note, high pure. The gem sang louder, and Duskfong landed, his claws digging softly into the moss. The gold and red dragons flanked him, their heads tilting. Thorin gasped. He's right. The scroll mentions a carver. Rin laughed. So it's his, hers, and royal? Leora grinned. This just got fun. Elthar glared. No games. Hand it over, Vryn. The carver shook his head. Not yet. Tild said it'd call someone. Mira tugged Leora's sleeve. Me? Erin laughed softly. No, silly. But the gem pulsed, its song shifting, faster, urgent. The dragons rumbled, their eyes darting to Vryn, then Elthar. Thorin dropped a scroll, fumbling. There's more. Tild split the gems, gave one to a friend, hid the rest. Leora's grin faded. Friend. Vryn nodded. Me. Until she changed her mind. A twig snapped, and a voice called, gruff low from the mist. She didn't change it. An old elf hobbled out, his cane tapping, his beard white and tangled. I'm Dorn, the gatekeeper. Tild told me, keep 'em safe. Elthar stared. You? Dorn chuckled. I hid the gold one. Lost it. The gold dragon growled, nudging Dorn, who patted its snout. Found me instead. Leora laughed, pulling Rin closer. This is mad. Rin nodded. Love it. Erin hummed again, and the dragons sat, their roars turning to purrs. Thorin whispered, the song binds them. Elthar gripped his spear. Then we end this. Give me the gem. Leora stepped between. No. It's bigger than us. Duskfang's eyes glinted, and the forest hummed louder, hinting at more to come. The clearing in Elvandar's forest glowed with dusk, silver trees catching the last rays as their leaves rustled faintly. Duskfang sat, his black scales glinting, flanked by the gold dragon and the red one, their eyes fixed on Erin's green gem. Its song wove through the air, soft and steady, holding the dragons still. Leora stood beside Rin, her golden hair swaying as she watched the scene unfold. Rin clutched Thorin's scroll, his patched tunic shifting with each curious glance. Erin hummed quietly, her red braid steady, the gem warm in her hands. Mira hopped nearby, her black braids bouncing, grinning at the dragons. Elthar faced them all, his silver crown firm, spear lowered but tense. Vryn leaned on his flute, grey cloak still, while Dorn rested on his cane, the gold dragon nudging him gently. Torin adjusted his lenses, scrolls spilling as he muttered to himself. Elthar broke the silence, his voice deep. This ends now. The gem returns to the castle. Leora stepped forward, calm but firm. Not yet. It's tied to them all. She nodded at Eren, Vryn, and Dorn. Vryn played a note on his flute, high and clear, and the gem's song sharpened, making Duskfang tilt his head. Tild gave it to me, Vryn said evenly. She trusted me until she didn't. Dorn chuckled, tapping his cane. Trusted me too. Hid the gold one in my gatehouse. Didn't know it'd call this one. The gold dragon purred, its tail curling around him. Rin squinted at the scroll. Wait, there's 3 gems. Where's red? Torin fumbled a scroll, scanning quickly. Tild scattered them, green to a carver, gold to a keeper, red to. He paused, eyes wide. Her heir. Elthar stiffened. Me? Leora grinned. Know me. Eren stopped humming, surprised. You? The red dragon snorted, smoke curling, its gaze shifting to Leora. Mira clapped. She's got a dragon. Elthar shook his head. Nonsense. I'd know. Dorn hobbled closer, his voice low. Tild kept secrets. Gave me gold, said red's safe with family. Vryn nodded. She told me green would find its way back. Rin laughed softly. So Leora's got red? The princess smirked. Maybe. Let's see. She hummed bold, clear, matching Eren's tune. The red dragon rumbled, stepping toward her, its eyes softening. Duskfang growled suddenly, wings twitching, breaking the calm. Eren clutched the gem. He's restless. Torin whispered, the gems are linked. All 3 wake the trove. Elthar gripped his spear. Then we take them now. Leora blocked him. No, they're not yours to take. A rustle came from the trees, and a new figure emerged, an elf woman, her hair white, her robe embroidered with vines. Nor yours, she said, her voice sharp. I'm Silra, Tild's sister. Those gems are mine. Vryn spun, flute dropping. Silra? You're alive. Dawn blinked. Thought you left. She smiled thinly. Hid. Tild promised me the trove, then locked it with those. Elthar stared. Aunt Silra. Leora laughed. This family's big. Rin nudged her. And messy. Silra stepped closer, eyeing the gem. Give it here, girl. Eren pulled back. No. It chose me. The dragons rumbled, all 3 rising, their tails lashing. Mira squeaked, hiding behind Rin. They're mad. Torin clutched his scrolls. The vows breaking. Silra smirked. Good. I'll claim it. Leora faced her, firm. Not if it's grandmother's piece. Elthar nodded slowly. She's right. Tild wanted harmony. Silra scoffed. Tild wanted power. Gave me nothing. Duskfang roared, lunging at Silra, claws swiping air. She stumbled back, shocked, as Eren hummed louder, calming him. The gold dragon growled at Dorn, who patted it. Easy, friend. Leora sang again, and the red dragon settled, nudging her hand. Rin grinned. They pick sides. Torin muttered, the gems bind them to singers. Silra glared. Then I'll sing. She opened her mouth, but a harsh note came, grating wrong. The dragons hissed, backing away. A horn sounded, soft, near, from the castle, guards shifting. Elthar turned. Enough chaos. We settle this. Leora smiled slyly. Not without me. Rin laughed. Or me. Eren joined in, gem glowing. Us. The forest hummed, the dragons watched, and Silra's eyes narrowed, plotting her next move. The clearing in Elvandar's forest shimmered under a twilight sky, silver trees glowing faintly as their leaves swayed in the cooling air. Duskfang loomed large, his black scales catching the dim light, flanked by the gold dragon and the red one, their eyes glinting with quiet unrest. Leora stood at the center, her golden hair loose, humming softly to the red dragon, which pressed its snout gently against her hand. Rin stayed close, his patched tunic shifting as he clutched Torin's scroll, his dark eyes darting with curiosity. Eren held the green gem, her red braid steady, her hum weaving a calm thread through the dragon's growls. Mira peeked from behind Rin, her black braids swinging as she watched wide-eyed. Elthar gripped his spear, his silver crown firm, facing Silra, whose white hair gleamed under her vine-embroidered robe. Vryn picked up his flute, grey cloak still, while Dorn leaned on his cane, the gold dragon curling near his feet. Torin fumbled his scrolls, lenses slipping as he muttered nervously. Silra's sharp voice broke the hums. You can't keep them. Tild stole my birthright. Elthar turned, his tone stern. Your birthright ended when you left. She smirked, stepping closer. I never left. I waited. Those gems are my key. Leora stopped humming, her eyes narrowing. Key to what? Silra glanced at the dragons. The trove. Power Tild hid from me. Rin tilted his head. Power? It's just shiny rocks. Torin cleared his throat, holding a scroll. Not quite. The trove holds the old queen's craft, tools, gems, songs that shaped Elvandar. Eren frowned, gem warm in her hands. Songs like this. She hummed again, and Duskfang's growl softened, his wings folding. Vryn played a note on his flute, matching her, and the gold dragon purred, nudging Dorn. Leora sang too, her voice bold, and the red dragon settled, its smoke fading. Silra scoffed. Pretty tunes won't stop me. A rustle came from the trees, and a new figure stepped out, a broad elf, his apron stained with flour, a rolling pin in hand. Nor will sneaking, he said gruffly. I'm Brant, the baker. Saw her skulking near my ovens. Mira clapped. Bread man. Silra glared. Mind your dough. Brant crossed his arms. Mind your claws. Dragons spook my customers. Rin grinned. He's right. Smells better without smoke. Elthar raised a hand. Enough. Silra, stand down. She laughed, sharp and cold. You don't rule me, nephew. She clapped her hands, and the mist thickened, swirling fast. Duskfang roared, lunging, not at her, but at Brant, who swung his rolling pin, startling the dragon back. Eren gasped. He's confused. Leora sang louder, pulling the red dragon closer, while Vrin's flute trilled, steadying the gold one. Dawn patted its snout. Good lad. Torin dropped a scroll, his voice rising. The gems split their loyalty. Silra smiled slyly. Exactly. I'll take them all. She reached for Eren's gem, but Mira darted forward, tugging Silra's robe. No, you don't. Silra stumbled, and the gem slipped from Eren's grasp, rolling toward Rin. He scooped it up, humming off-key, and Duskfang froze, head tilting oddly. Leora laughed. Rin, you're terrible. He grinned, handing it back. Kept it safe. Eren took it, her song steadying, and Duskfang sat, bewildered. Silra straightened, furious. Fools. I'll wake the trove myself. She pulled a horn from her robe, small, black, and blew a harsh note. The ground rumbled, trees shaking, and a crack split the moss, revealing a glint gold deep below. Elthar shouted, "Stop her!" Brant swung his rolling pin, but Silra dodged, blowing again. The dragons roared, their calm breaking, and the gold one swiped at Dorn, who ducked with a yelp. Vrin played faster, flute high, pulling it back. Leora grabbed Rin. Sing with me. They hummed together, ragged but strong, and the red dragon turned, blocking Silra. Eren joined, her gem glowing, and Duskfang growled, at Silra now, not them. Torin yelled, the trove's opening. Mira pointed. Shiny. Silra smirked, horn raised. Mine at last. But the dragons circled her, their roars blending with the songs, and Elthar stepped forward, spear firm. Not today. The forest hummed, the crack widened, and the elves braced for what rose next. Twilight deepened over Elvandar's forest, the silver trees glowing faintly as their leaves trembled around the widening crack in the clearing. Golden light pulsed from below, casting shadows across Duskfang's black scales as he growled at Silra. The gold dragon flanked him, its snout nudging Dorn, while the red one stood by Leora, its warm breath brushing her golden hair. Rin held Eren's green gem briefly before handing it back, his patched tunic swaying as he grinned at his own off-key hum. Eren took it, her red braid steady, resuming her song to calm Duskfang. Mira giggled nearby, her black braids bouncing as she peeked at the crack. Elthar faced Silra, his silver crown firm, spear poised. Silra clutched her black horn, her white hair stark under her vine robe, smirking despite the dragon's glares. Vrin played his flute, its notes weaving with the gem's hum, while Dorn gripped his cane, steadying himself. Torin clutched his scrolls, lenses fogging, and Brant stood ready, rolling pin raised, flour dusting his apron. Elthar's voice rang out. Silra, cease this. The trove's not yours. She laughed coldly, raising the horn. Tild took it from me. I reclaim it now. She blew again, a harsh note cutting through, and the crack widened, gold light flaring bright. The ground rumbled and a shape rose, slow gleaming, a chest of carved wood, its lid etched with swirls, humming low. Mira clapped. Pretty box. Rin squinted. That's the trove. Torin nodded, frantic. Yes. Tild's craft, gems, tools, secrets. Leora stopped singing, stepping closer. Then we open it. Silra spun, horn lowering. No, it's mine. She lunged for the chest, but Duskfang roared, his tail swiping her back. Erin's song faltered, and he lunged again, toward Brant this time, who ducked, swinging his rolling pin. Stay off my bread. The gold dragon growled, confused, and Dawn patted it. Easy, lad. Vryn played louder, flute sharp, pulling the gold dragon's focus, while Leora sang again, her voice bold, calming the red one. Rin grabbed Myra's hand, pulling her from the crack. Not safe. She pouted, but shiny. Silra recovered, blowing the horn once more, and the chest's hum grew, urgent, strong, its lid creaking open. Golden light spilled out, revealing not gems, but a crown, silver delicate, set with 3 empty slots. Torin gasped. The queen's crown. Elthar lowered his spear. Tild's. Silra smirked. Mine now. She reached, but the dragons rumbled, circling tighter. Erin's gem pulsed, its song shifting, faster pleading, and Duskfang turned, his red eyes on Leora, not Silra. Rin blinked. They're picking her. Leora grinned, singing louder, and the red dragon nudged her gently. Vryn nodded. The gems choose. A shout came from the trees, a new elf short and spry, her apron patched, a basket of thread in hand. Not so fast, she called, hurrying in. I'm Liss, the weaver. That crown's not hers. Dawn blinked. Liss. She nodded, breathless. Tild gave me yarn gold, red, green, said it's tied to this. Silra burned my loom when I wouldn't tell. Silra glared. Lies. Liss held up a thread, green glowing, matching Erin's gem. Proof. Torin unrolled a scroll. She's right. Tild wove piece into it, gems and thread. Leora faced Silra. You knew. Silra sneered. Tild's piece was weak. I'd rule stronger. Elthar stepped forward. Not with lies. The chest hummed, the crown lifting slightly, its slots glinting, empty waiting. Duskfang roared again, lunging at Silra, but Rin jumped in, waving the scroll. Wait. The dragon paused, startled, and Rin grinned. Good boy. Erin sang softer, steadying him, while Leora and Vryn joined, their voices blending. The gold and red dragons sat, their growls fading. Brant chuckled. Singing bakers next? Liss smiled. Weaving guards too. Silra blew the horn, desperate, shrill, and the crown pulsed, a slot flashing green. Erin's gem leapt from her hand, slotting in, its song bursting bright. Mira cheered. It fits. Torin whispered, one down. Silra shouted no, and grabbed for it, but the dragons roared, pushing her back. Elthar raised his spear. This ends now. Leora grinned at Rin. Not yet. The forest hummed, the crown glowed, and the trove's secrets beckoned. The silver trees of Elvandar's forest gleamed under a starlit sky, their leaves swaying faintly around the clearing where the trove's chest sat open. The crown hovered above it, silver and delicate, its green slot glowing with Erin's gem, humming a steady tune. Duskfang loomed nearby, his black scales shimmering, his red eyes flicking between Silra and Leora. The gold dragon curled beside Dorn, its snout resting on his cane, while the red one stood by Leora, its warm breath ruffling her golden hair. Rin clutched Lyssa's green thread, his patched tunic swaying as he watched the crown. Erin sang softly, her red braids still, calming Duskfang with her voice. Mira sat cross-legged, her black braids framing a wide grin as she stared at the glow. Elthar held his spear firm, his silver crown steady, facing Silra, whose white hair glowed under her vine robe as she gripped her black horn. Vryn played his flute, its notes blending with Erin's song, while Dorn leaned on his cane, steadying himself. Torin adjusted his lenses, scrolls tucked tight, and Brant twirled his rolling pin, flower dusting the moss. Lys stood beside Rin, her basket of thread gleaming, gold, red, green in the starlight. Elthar's voice rang clear. Silra, this stops now. The crown's ours. She smirked, raising the horn. Tild's peace fails. I'll take it. She blew a sharp note, and the crown pulsed, its gold slot flashing. Dorn gasped as a golden gleam shot from his pocket, the gold gem, rising fast and slotting in beside the green. The hum grew brighter, weaving with Erin's song, and the gold dragon purred, its eyes softening. Mira clapped. 2 now. Leora laughed, stepping closer. It's working. Silra spun, furious. No, that's mine. She lunged, but Duskfang roared, his tail swiping her back. Rin grinned. He likes us better. Erin sang louder, and the black dragon settled, his growl fading. Vryn's flute trilled, steadying the gold one, while Leora hummed, her voice bold, keeping the red one near. Lys held up her gold thread, matching the gem. Tild wove this too. Silra burned my home for it. Torin nodded, scanning a scroll. The crown binds the gems and dragons, Tild's vow to harmony. Silra scoffed. Harmony's weak. I'd rule. Elthar lowered his spear. You'd ruin us. A rustle broke the standoff. A young elf darted from the trees, his tunic torn, a red ribbon in his hand. Wait, he called, breathless. I'm Tarn, the stable boy. Found this red glowing in the hay. The red dragon perked up, sniffing the air. Leora's eyes widened. The red gem. Tarn nodded, tossing it high. The crown pulsed, its red slot flaring, and the gem flew in, slotting perfectly. The hum swelled, rich, full, blending Erin's song, Vryn's flute, and Leora's voice into a harmony that filled the clearing. The red dragon rumbled happily, nudging Leora, while the gold one purred at Dorn, and Duskfang sat, his eyes on Erin. Mira cheered. All 3. Rin laughed. We're good at this. Silra blew her horn again, desperate, shrill, and the crown shook, its light flickering. The dragons growled, their calm wavering, and the chest rumbled, a crack splitting its base. Torin shouted, "She's breaking it." Elthar lunged, spear aimed, but Silra dodged, her robe tearing. Brant swung his rolling pin, clipping her arm, and she dropped the horn, stumbling back. Lys grabbed it, snapping it in half. No more. The crown steadied, its glow brightening, and the dragons roared, not in anger but triumph. Duskfang turned, his tail brushing Silra aside, and faced Leora, bowing low. The gold and red ones followed, their heads dipping to Eren and Dorn. Rin blinked. "They're ours." Torin whispered, "The vows alive, choosing singers." Silra glared, clutching her torn robe. "This isn't over." But the dragons growled, and she froze, outnumbered. Elthar lowered his spear fully. "It's done. The crown stays." Leora grinned at Rin. "Not quite. Look." The crown floated higher, its hum softening, and the chest sealed, sinking back into the moss. Vryn stopped playing, flute still. "Tild's peace holds." Eren smiled, gem quiet now, and Dorn patted the gold dragon. "Good friends." Brant chuckled. "Better than dough." The forest sighed, the dragons relaxed, and Mira tugged Rin's sleeve. "More." He laughed. "Maybe." The night deepened, and the elves stood united, the crown's glow lingering above. The clearing in Elvandar's forest basked under a quiet night, silver trees glowing softly as their leaves swayed in a gentle breeze. The crown floated above the sealed chest, its silver frame shimmering with 3 gems, green, gold, red, humming a faint, peaceful tune. Duskfang rested nearby, his black scales dull in the starlight, his red eyes calm as he watched Eren. The gold dragon curled around Dorn, its snout on his cane, while the red one sat by Leora, its warm breath stirring her golden hair. Rin stood close, his patched tunic still, a grin on his face as he handed Lys's green thread back. Eren pocketed her gem, her red braid swaying as she smiled. Mira lay on the moss, her black braids framing a sleepy face, yawning softly. Elthar lowered his spear, his silver crown steady, gazing at the scene. Silra sat against a tree, her vine robe torn, her white hair loose, silent under the dragon's watchful eyes. Vryn tucked his flute away, grey cloak still, while Dorn leaned on his cane, chuckling. Torin gathered his scrolls, lenses clear, and Brant twirled his rolling pin, flower dusting the air. Lys held her basket, threads gleaming faintly, green, gold, red, matching the crown. Elthar spoke first, his voice deep and calm. "Tild's peace holds. The crown stays here." Leora nodded, stepping forward. "With us, not locked away." She hummed softly, and the red dragon nudged her hand, its purr blending with the crown's tune. Eren joined in, her voice sweet, and Duskfang settled fully, his wings folding. Vryn smiled, adding a flute note, and the gold dragon purred louder, nudging Dorn. Rin laughed. "They're family now." Mira sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Big pets." Silra shifted, her tone bitter but soft. "You've won nothing." Tild's weak vow, Elthar cut her off firm. "Saved us. You're done." She looked away, and Duskfang growled low, keeping her still. Torin adjusted his scrolls. The gems chose them, Eren, Leora, Dorn. The crowns alive with their songs. Dawn patted the gold dragon. Good lad chose me. Lys smiled, holding her threads. Tild wove us together, me too. Brant chuckled. Even bakers fit. Leora turned to Rin, her grin sly. You didn't sing. He shrugged, sheepish. Bad voice, good nets. She laughed, pulling him closer. Good heart too. Elthar watched, his stern face softening. You trust him? She nodded, firm. More than most. Rin blushed, but his grin widened. Princess Nets now? Mira giggled. Net King. The elves laughed, the tension easing. The crown pulsed once, sinking gently onto the moss beside the chest, its glow dimming to a warm shimmer. Torin blinked. It's resting. Vryn nodded. Tild's work, peace, not power. Erin knelt by it, her gem quiet. We kept it safe. Dawn hobbled over, the gold dragon trailing. All of us. Brant twirled his pin. Bread's safer too. Lys tucked her basket close. Threads wove it right. Elthar sheathed his spear, turning to Silra. You'll stay in the castle, watched. She glared but said nothing as guards stepped forward, lifting her gently. The dragons rumbled, approving, and she left without a fight. Leora squeezed Rin's hand. Stay here. He grinned. With dragons? Yes. She laughed, and Elthar sighed, a faint smile breaking. If he earns it. A twig snapped, and Ton ran in, his torn tunic flapping. Stable's fine. Red likes hay. The red dragon snorted, nudging him, and Leora sang a quick note, calming it. Rin joined, off-key but earnest, and the elves chuckled. Erin smiled. He's learning. Vryn played a soft tune, and the dragons lay down, their purrs filling the air. Mira curled up, yawning. Sleepy pets. Dawn sat beside her, the gold dragon resting its head near. The forest hummed, its vines swaying softly, blending with the crown's faint song. Leora sat by Rin, her head on his shoulder. Partners. He nodded, warm. Always. Elthar watched, then turned to the castle, guards following. Torin packed his scrolls, Brant his pin, and Lys her threads, all smiling. The dragons slept, the crown glowed, and Elvandar settled into peace, Leora and Rin together, their bond sealing Tild's legacy.